Today I'd like to conclude our journey in the book of Numbers and launch us right into the last book of the Pentateuch, the book of Deuteronomy. We're up to chapter 36, which is the final chapter of the book of Numbers, and it's interesting what they speak about in chapter 36 is about the women who inherit property. We've seen in the book of Numbers, it's really the exception that women would inherit property. And there's really a special discussion of it because the whole concept in the Hebrew scriptures and really life at this time was that property rights would go through the males. So women, though, who were widowed and who did not have uh, sons, they were a special exception. So the woman who inherited property, as was the case with the daughters of Zelophehad, so they were left, because Zelophehad didn't have any sons, they were left the property. Obviously, it had to go to them. There were no sons around. So they had to marry within their own clan or with their own tribe. And you might say, well, that kind of limits them a bit. They have to marry within their own tribe or clan. The idea was that the property then would stay within that tribe. It wouldn't go to another tribe because there was this consciousness that it was important that that property remain within the tribe. The whole concept of the land being apportioned to certain tribes. Imagine if you had somebody from a different tribe living with another tribe, you can just imagine the conflicts that would have arisen from that. So they solved that problem very nicely, saying, this is simple. What you can do is just make sure that that property stays within that tribe. And if it stays within that tribe, really no problem. Very easy, very simple to solve. But it shows, again, the patriarchal climate that we're dealing with. Everything was through the males. Certainly for us today, we look at that and we say, hey, wait a minute. What about women? What about women's rights? And again, this is a battle, unfortunately, that we're still fighting today in many areas of the world where women do not have the rights that they should have. Uh, Many times they're denied equal education, equal employment opportunities, even in our own country, we're arguing about the salaries and why is there this discrepancy in salaries between men and women. So this is a fight that continues to be a fight for true justice for women. So that really concludes the book of Numbers. So at the end of the book of Numbers, we're kind of left with the people on the cusp. They're getting ready now to enter into the promised land. They're all set. They've had this journey for 40 years. And again, the number 40, uh, an arbitrary number. Is it exactly 40 chronological years as we would measure it? Most probably not. But it signifies really a long time. And so this new generation is going to take over, and they're getting ready to enter into the promised land. But before we do this, we have what many would consider to be the gem of the Pentateuch, the most amazing of the five books, and that is the book of Deuteronomy, which basically is kind of a farewell discourse on the part of Moses. Moses tells the people that they will occupy the land of the Canaanites. It is interesting because this is now a communal event. Moses gathers all the people, he's talking to all the people. And again, this is, of course, an artificial reconstruction by the authors of the book of Deuteronomy of Moses saying goodbye to the people. And it's kind of a review of everything they've gone through in terms of getting to this point where they're ready to enter into the promised land. Moses then talks about the elders from each tribe who would assist them. So it's important that he kind of delegates these elders. They're going to kind of be the leaders of that tribe. They're going to work with Joshua as the people enter into the promised land, and they work with Moses now to get the people ready. So these elders, an important role. It's interesting. Even in the early church, we use this term, the elder. Sometimes we even use it today, contemporary language. We speak of respect for our elders, those who are a little bit older, a little bit wiser. They've had some experience. They've been through some tough times, and they've gained a lot of knowledge as a result of their life experience. So Moses mentions about the scouts who went out to assess the strength of the Amorites and how they were intimidated and they did not set out to take the land. So they saw the Amorites. They said, "We're not going to defeat these people. They're too big. They're too strong. They're too powerful." And so they kind of spread that word to the people. The people got shy and they said, "Well, we're not going to do this right now." And so they took a step back. Moses rebukes them for their lack of trust in God's presence with them. This becomes now the crucial issue. It's an issue of trust. Do we trust God? Do we trust that God will be with us? Do we trust that God will help us? Or do we think we have to do this all on our own and that God isn't going to be present, that God isn't going to reach out to us, that God will not assist us? This becomes sort of the critical piece in terms of the people and their willingness to really, should they believe in God? Should they follow God? Should they trust in God? They've had some tough times here. It hasn't been easy for them, traveling in the desert, all the circumstances that they encountered, fear of the opposition. So, do you trust in God or do you not trust in God? Which is, I think, very important for us to reflect on, because in our lives we're faced with that same question. How much are we going to trust in God? And ultimately, when it comes to the end of our life, do we put our trust in God, or do we kind of say, I don't know. Do we take a step back? Do we say, well, uh, I don't know what the future is going to hold for me? Or do we ultimately say, God, I put my complete and total trust in you. I believe in you. I believe in your word. I want to follow you completely. I give my life to you. So it's that moment of, will we really come and put our trust in God? Or will we have that doubt? Will we withdraw? Will we question? Will we wonder? And again, difficult for the people, the Israelites as they were traveling, and I think difficult for us today. It's that sense of, who do we trust? And a lot of times it comes out of our life experience, because there could be situations where we trusted somebody and they let us down. And so when that whole term trust comes up, all those echoes of those previous experiences of being let down, disappointed, lied to, cheated, all of that comes into play. And we're like, should I really trust in this word of God? Should I really trust in the promise of God? Should I really trust in this covenant that God initiates with me? Because of their lack of trust in God, none of the people of that generation would go up to the land that was promised. Only Caleb, because he has followed God unreservedly. So everybody else from that generation, sorry, you're not going to make it to the promised land. You didn't trust in God enough. But Caleb, he did trust in God. So we see, as Moses is now orientating the people, we see what really comes down to in the book of Deuteronomy, and really overall in these first 5 books of the Pentateuch, is this concept of God's covenant, God's promise. Do we trust in God's promise? And next time we will continue our journey through the book of Deuteronomy. God bless.